JD, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing really well. All right, so final weekend of the regular season. The calendar's a little odd now, right? So we are 8 days away from the early signing period. Walk me through what this week is like for LSU.
It's sort of a kind of carry on of where they were this past weekend, Matt. So whenever they had the Western Kentucky game, long before the 13-10 score, earlier in the day, earlier in Friday and into Saturday, obviously some guys are in the playoffs, all that, but more than half of LSU's commits were there, and they did a bit of a mini orientation. And really, if you want to talk from NIL to where they're living to making sure that everything was in order for, where the letter of intent and all that has to be sent, for them to sign and send back next Wednesday, all of that sort of ironed out. So that's kind of the goal right now. If you didn't have those loose ends tied up this past weekend, they're doing this from afar now because you don't have a home game this weekend. So that was the last time you kind of had a lot of those guys face to face. So 16 commits, I believe, still in this 2026 class. You've talked about it plenty. They've gone about a month now and only had one decommit, which is very impressive. And look, at the same time, kudos to other programs right now waiting in the job search. Auburn and Florida, all three of those combined have lost two commits in the span of a month plus. So everybody in a bit of a holding period, but certainly specific to LSU. Frank Wilson, the whole staff, the personnel side, a tough task to try to keep a pretty good signing class. In fact, pound for pound, the number 2 blue chip ratio class in the country behind Oregon, together to the extent it has, but what a really good job they've done.
We'll get right back to the video, but thrilled to welcome Our Lady of the Lake to AFR LSU. As the championship health partner of LSU athletics, the physicians at Our Lady of the Lake serve the champions on the field in the purple and gold, but that same level of care is available to you and your family. I've been a proud supporter of Our Lady of the Lake my entire life, from volunteering at the Ronald McDonald Playroom as a high schooler to helping so many of the fundraising efforts for the standalone Children's Hospital, to my own son being a patient now at that very Children's Hospital, and my primary care physician, Dr. Kurt Chastain at Our Lady of the Lake Men's Health Group. Our Lady of the Lake has been a part of my medical journey my entire life, and you can learn more as well. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. Shea, you said LSU, Florida, Auburn have lost combined to what do you attribute that?
I think a lot. Look, one, you can say the coaching staffs or whomever's in place where they steady the ship a little bit, right? I think more than that are two things. I think a lot of guys who are committed to Auburn, committed to Florida, committed to LSU are from those states and areas, and they want to go there, right? They're border state kids, or they're from Alabama, they're from Louisiana, they're from Florida. And the other is NIL. I think that now and you've broken it down in your show plenty, but for those that don't know, I mean, NIL, there's legal documents. You're signing things. You're coming to an agreement on a sheet of paper here to where it's more than just a verbal commitment. Yeah, you can get out of it, but it's a bit more enticing than it was prior to the NIL era, where if you didn't have a head coach or any real certain way of telling anyone who the head coach or staff would be, this was a bargaining chip that above the table you did not have. And I do think that's playing into why a lot of these guys have held firm and then are kind of waiting and seeing when a head coach will be named.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, is with us. Hey, let me ask you about Richard Anderson, big 5-star defensive lineman from Edna Carr. He took a visit this past weekend to Texas. Where do things stand? What can you tell us?
Yeah, Big Rich is I think number 2 defensive lineman in the country. We got him as a 5-star now on Rivals. He has really never, I shouldn't even say never really, he hasn't visited anyone else this whole time. Texas has really put the pressure on a lot of these guys to come to campus. He finally does. It was an unofficial visit. And look, simultaneously, Bryce Brown, his head coach, a guy that Frank Wilson singled out by name in his very first introductory press conference as interim head coach, and Aiden Hall, his teammate, another senior at Edna Carr, was front row at Tiger Walk. I saw Bryce Brown on the sidelines in Tiger Stadium. And I can put this very simple. If Frank Wilson's on this staff, Richard Anderson and all the Carr kids for this year and then the next year and the year after that, LSU wants them, they'll end up at LSU. It's just how it's like destiny. It's just how it goes. If Frank Wilson's not on the staff, then maybe those kids do have a decision to make that's a bit deeper than what, kind of where they're at now, because I just think between the relationship Bryce Brown has with Frank and maybe Frank being able to tell him some assurances of, hey, look, we're looking over these guys. We're going to hire a good, whether it's head coach, D-line coach for Richard Anderson. We don't know what the future holds for Corey Raymond. Aiden Hall's a DB. But I think they're a bit at ease right now. But the only thing that would change that or could change that commitment would be if Frank Wilson were here, and we don't know the outcome there yet.
You suspect we'd have that decision before signing day on Wednesday?
I mean, in the world of these okay, let's just play the Lane hypothetical of, let's say, really does announce something on Saturday as Keith Carter, Ole Miss's AD, said in the statement, what happened the day after they had Egg Bowl? Well, you've got, 5 days then, if you're able to fly Lane down, announce him, and then that week you're signing 16-plus kids on Wednesday. And I don't think that the Ole Miss commits, maybe flipping at the last second, are going to be the biggest storyline. We talked about that. It's the portal. Like, if whatever coach you hire, you're going to wonder what portal guys he can bring in, most notably from the team he's currently at. So it would be interesting timing, but I think that also with Kiffin and Frank's relationship, that if you're coupling that with what you and I both said, like, give me two on-field coaches that you think have the best shot of sticking around, and for different, a number of different reasons, it would be Frank and Corey. So you couple that with, then Frank and Lane have worked together before. Frank and Lane are friends, that you would kind of assume that Lane would see some inherent value in Frank being on staff, whether that's keeping the running backs coach, associate head coach, or whatever it might be, because Lane does know what Frank's reputation and abilities are, not just in recruiting high school kids in Louisiana, but then having that rapport with the entire team that not a lot of assistants out there have. It's sort of what separates Frank from everybody else.
Shea, the other one we talked about was Bryson Martinez out of East Ascension. No, Texas, it was putting on the hard full court press there. What's the latest on Martinez?
I pushed him a bit further into the flip watch category. I'm not counting it out with Rich Anderson. I just think Richard's going to end up at LSU. And I've talked to a number of people who think that, look, if things are trending where they are right now, he'll stick with LSU. But he has taken a very serious look at Texas. He had made an unofficial visit. He and his mother went back to Austin this past weekend for an official visit. Kind of the guy who spearheads things there. For those that don't know, is Brandon Harris, a former LSU quarterback. So he's been on that Texas staff for a while and worked his way up kind of into those GM roles that kind of everyone's being put into a position of. And his is really focused on recruiting. And he's got a good relationship with Martinez. They've got stability on staff. And I think that's obviously the thing that a guy like Bryson Martinez, who is a top 15 offensive tackle, is looking at. I don't know who the head coach is. I don't know if my O-line coach will be there. And the area recruiter I committed to was also already fired in Joe Sloan alongside the head coach. So as much as anyone, maybe a guy like Bryson Martinez, an O-lineman who was recruited by Sloan and Brad Davis, and Kelly's an O-line kind of guy who certainly, when it came to recruiting Matt, he kind of did get a good eye on the O-lineman and thought very highly of Bryson Martinez. What does it mean for him? And I'm not hitting the panic button there yet, but that one is real. That's one we're going to have to monitor until next Wednesday.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Few more for you. Any other flips that we should be – well, let me ask you the other way, Shea. Coming into the class, prospects LSU's trying to flip before Wednesday.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing will be if they have a coach. If you can say the season ends this weekend, Sunday the news breaks of a coach. I think that could push some guys into the class. At the same time, we've talked forever about Blaine Bradford. It doesn't seem to be there's any real traction there, and you're going for a coaching change. We've talked forever about Emmanuel Ionacho, the offensive lineman committed to Oregon. There's been no real traction there. And K.J. Edwards, the running back at A&M. I mean, we could sort of keep going down the list. Now, they did flip one guy already, Kervin Johnson Jr., and I will say they have an eye on a JUCO defensive lineman who is coming. Right now he's committed to Florida State. And I really didn't put much stock into that because I was like, well, Mike Norvell's going to get fired, so they're in no different spot than LSU's in. Well, Mike Norvell didn't get fired. I'm not sure what that staff will look like now, Matt, but he's a kid from Slidell, prepped at Pearl River, so he's in JUCO. And don't forget, JUCO kids are not having years counted against their eligibility right now. And he's also a defensive end, which is the only commit they've lost, Anthony Lafayette, is an edge rusher. So he's one we're at least keeping an eye on. He was in town this past weekend, and I say all that, didn't even say his name. Jalen Anderson is his name. But he played at Slidell High, and now he's been at Pearl River and had a really good year this fall.
Shea, before you go, anything else that we should know here a week and a day before the early signing period?
This, I feel like I'm going to say no. And look, Lamar Brown, 5-star. He's been back at LSU. He's back at LSU again this weekend. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like we're talking as much about that kind of stuff as we are a head coach. And if it's going to be Kiffin or not. And Matt, trust me, this is way more fun. It might seem like a lot of angst. It might seem like a waiting game. A year ago, we were doing the Bryce Underwood saga. Trust me, this is a little more enjoyable as a fan to at least track.
Well, they got to figure out quarterback, but it feels like that's going to happen with the portal. So we'll pay attention in January for that. Make sure you're locked in. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, at Shea Dixon. Get him there on Twitter. Always appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, dude. Be well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.